Okay, I think that we can start now. Hello, good morning. My name is Spiros Borotis. I'm a senior project manager in Maggioli Spa, a large Italian technology company with focus on innovation. I would like to welcome you to this workshop, which focuses to the reskilling of professionals in the domain of advanced digital skills, exploiting the potential of microcredentials and MOOCs. The workshop is conducted in the context of the LEADS project, which is funded by the Digital Euro program. I would like to inform you that this workshop is recorded. So let's proceed with the context of the workshop. The job market is constantly changing due to a variety of reasons, including the technological advancements, the globalization, the economic trends, the evolving skills requirements, the work context formatted after the pandemic, and several other factors. Therefore, it is totally dependent on the changes proliferated in the technology, the society, and the global economy, creating particular challenges to the professionals for adaptability and continuous learning and reskilling. This workshop focuses on vocational-oriented reskilling through innovative approaches with specific focus on micro-credentials and massive open online courses, the well-known MOOCs. And this in order to accelerate the adaptation of educational and training programs into the emerging and rapidly changing market demands for professionals equipped with advanced digital skills. So the objective is to explore how these flexible and accessible learning options may help professionals in the ICT domain to acquire new skills, validate their knowledge, and of course maintain and evolve their role in their respective industries. And specifically to discuss how the availability of appropriately recognized micro-credentials, short-term courses, and additional online learning opportunities may meet the industry and learners' demands. In order to gain rich insights into the aforementioned topics, we have invited three people to share their knowledge and expertise. Mr. George Ubachs, the President of the European Association of Distance Education Universities, Mrs. Ekaterini Kyprianou, the Head of Digital Skills Development of the Department of Digital Transformation and Digital Skills of the GRNet, and Mrs. Vana Karagianni, a People Architect, co-founder at the Enzo Hub. The agenda for today is the following. We shall start with the presentation of the LEADS project. In the next 15 minutes, Mr. Brendan Rovan from BlueSpecs will provide us rich insights into the objectives, the activities, and the key results that emerged so far by the project. Next, we shall proceed to the roundtable, during which the three invited speakers will be asked to provide their opinions in a series of questions, depending on their expertise. This session will last around 30 minutes. After that, we shall have an open discussion with the audience. And for this purpose, you may use the Q&A's functionality. And last, the workshop will finish with a wrap-up and the key takeaways. So at this point, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Brendan Rovan for the presentation of the LEADS project context and the key findings so far. Brendan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Spiros, and thank you all for joining, and thank our colleagues Maggioli for organising the session today, because quite rightly, as you've covered already, Spiros, this is a key area of interest in how we can insert flexibility into the urgent demands that we have for the advanced digital skills professionals of the future that we require in that way. So what I will do is I will be sharing some slides giving a quick overview of what the project is about, and I will continue on to discuss a bit more about, not in detail, but more contextual environment that we're able to, contextual results that we've had from across the project. So LEADS is funded, as Spiros has already covered, under the Digital Euro program, and this is really part of supporting the advanced digital skills development in where have you gone? Thank you. Advanced digital skills development under the digital program is funded really to support the digital decade targets. And these are the overarching goals that we have for achieving the digital society that we need by 2030. And as you'll see, one of the key indicators that we have to address is 20 million ICT specialists by 2030, more graduates and more gender balance. A recent report has been published, and this is something that we're looking at, is that fact, if we do not change significantly how we, across the whole of Europe, train and develop digital experts, we are going to fall quite short of the target of what we need, and we expect there to be a gap of between I think it's 9 million individuals by 2030, if we continue as business as usual. And what is being funded has been a selection of different initiatives that will be looking at how they can actually help bridge this divide, but also the conversation that we're having today. So there are the previously funded Masters in AI, there are 2 rounds of specialised Masters programmes, and there's also a range of short-term training courses directed at SMEs, which is quite a significant investment and looking for long-term solutions in building out this area here. Leeds, we are part of this portfolio of projects. We are coordination support action, and really we're looking at how we can support the identification of future demands, understand where supply may or may not be missing, and also develop the guidelines for how we can approach this from the education and training community, but also from industry, because this challenge needs everyone to be involved. So we are 9 partners, so BlueSpecs we are coordinating. We're joined by ITC, the Technical University of Madrid, Trinity College Dublin, Southern Denmark University, Maggioli, who are hosting today, Martel Innovate, and then supported by AOTI and BDVA. And really where we are in terms of our project is where we are today. So we've spent a bit of time doing some market data mapping, understanding how we can build different scenarios about future demand. We've looked at what we can do in terms of supply, looking at what different courses are available, both within a higher education context, but also in a vocational education context, and building out where it is that we see the main challenges and opportunities for us to adapt to this area. The background is that this challenge is difficult because within Europe, compared to other major regions, we are falling behind in terms of STEM graduates. So if we think of this as a kind of traditional pipeline supply, we are struggling in terms of production of ICT graduates, especially from our universities. We also have got limited slack in the system. And we expect within Europe to be losing at least 1 million individuals from the labour force every year this decade, which makes it even harder for us to build up those different areas there. And I have different slides that I don't have here, but really there's been a measure between the potential gap in GDP or GVA being caused between the US and Europe is being really triggered by our incapacity to catch up in terms of the digital sector and digital industry. And this is something that we need to really be looking at here. But the rate of change, and I think Spiros, you've already covered this quite kind of overarching, is that the rate of technology is really accelerating, and the adoption of it is expected to accelerate even further. So we looked at 6 key areas of tech areas. So we looked at cloud, data, AI, IoT, cybersecurity, and also quantum. And we already estimate that we need between 3.5 million and 13.9 million new professionals. So we need, for example, in IT skills, at minimum, we need another 464,000 individuals with IT skills. Cybersecurity, another 709,000 individuals with those skills. And this really is quite a challenge that's going to affect us all, because the limitation of how we can progress and how our industries can grow is being caused by this skills demand. And we look at the relative increase in demand, of course, across all areas we expect it to increase, but particularly around AI application development and around cloud infrastructure and also analytics involved there as well. So quite a lot of challenges that we're going into, and this isn't even just by 2030, this is just between 2022 and 2027 in that way. And we're looking at how we can match supply and demand to try and identify gaps. We also encounter some interesting findings. So of course, cybersecurity is a huge demand at the moment. And we see there's a good supply coming, especially from within the vocational context, to cover that demand there. However, it's quite difficult to understand which level of tech that we need is in the place there. And also the role that digital skills and advanced technologies are having outside of traditionally IT. And this is where we need to stop thinking of ICT specialists, but actually advanced digital experts and users within their context. We can see here there's going to be affecting across the board within industry the areas of growth. And how is industry addressing this? Well, there are kind of 4 key strategies that we looked at. We looked at automation, so quite a significant proportion of organizations are expecting automation to solve their future skills demands needs. Reskilling is very high, especially around cybersecurity, cloud and data, and also new hires. So we need to have that mix of approach in terms of how we look at solving from industry point of view. But interestingly, when we look at what is the main barrier to adopting and to identifying who to bring on board, it's actually not around salary, but more around work experience and professional qualifications as well. And just trying to finish with some of the conclusions that we have. First of all, that there is no finish line here. The Advanced Digital Skills Challenge is a continuous challenge. Tech is developing, and we need to also develop with it and catch up with it. And our industries need to be able to, and our companies need to be able to take advantage so that we can have better employment, better competitiveness, and a stronger positioning there, which means that we need to stay ahead. And this goes particularly within an education and training environment. It's very difficult to be able to understand what's needed and being able to certify and accredit and work at that time, because the rate of development is very high, and also the visibility of the future. Many things can happen along the way. And it's also, as I mentioned before, it's affecting everyone. You know, this isn't just a problem for industry, for universities, for training providers. This is a problem for all of us, and we all need to be looking at how it is that we can address it within our daily lives, but also within our societies. We also expect there to be a difference, really, when we talk about advanced digital skills, and something that we encountered when we were looking through the project was that there's a difference that needs to be driven here between those who are going to be the highly specialists who are developing those new AI models, those new robotics solutions, and really that kind of pushing the forefront of the technology. But actually, we have a significant demand for those who are going to be able to leverage these technologies, to use them appropriately, and be able to manipulate them and make them in their way there. And that also means that we can probably expect also polarization of demand. So as new technologies come into our system and as we begin to adopt them, the level of skills needed will probably likely reduce. But in terms of delivering advanced digital skills, there's actually quite high barriers to entry and delivery as it is. They tend to be quite expensive to deliver. They tend to be quite niche. We also have got, usually there's a significant amount of prior requisite skills or experience needed to enter into these courses. And that's something that is creating a challenge there for diversifying our sources of future talent and upskilling them in that way. And we also need to look at how we can require more flexibility in our learning pathways. How can we better move, and the topic of discussion today is how we're able to work within the context such as microcredentials to be able to continuously validate learning along the way and upskilling, and being able to look at how we can then also mutually recognize prior learning and activity between different environments, whether it's in a vocational environment, whether it's in an education environment, etc., etc. And the other parts that is the applied nature. Digital skills are practical skills, and what industry doesn't need is people with technical skills. They need people with an understanding of how those technical skills can be applied to deliver a solution. And also, given the fact that we have such a high level of advancement in technologies, we need people who are able to understand what the answer should look like. if they're going to apply AI into an existing solution, perhaps let's take it for example, manufacturing, and it's going to provide predictive demand, predictive and coordinated automated production and supply chain management, we need someone who's able to critically assess what's coming out the far side and understand that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, because that's where we need to get to in the future as well. And finally, just to kind of to go back onto the STEM question, STEM as subjects, as education, as careers, is quite important for our resistance to future change, because although we need huge amounts of applied and specific to solution training and professionals, we also need to have that base that will allow us to also take on what is the future changes that we don't know that are coming in terms of this area. So really looking forward to the conversation today, and thank you very much, Spiros, for inviting me to give this introduction, and I look forward to continuing this conversation, especially around micro-credentials, that we see a huge opportunity to overcome some of the main challenges we're encountering in trying to develop these professionals, and that rate of speed between the tech and the skills levels within the industry.
Thank you, Brendan. All the information presented and that arose mainly from the LEADS project is very interesting, and we would like to hear also the opinion both of the invited speakers and of the audience after the roundtable about how micro-credentials and MOOCs could address even partially some of those challenges. Now I think that it is time to proceed to the roundtable. We have invited 3 speakers, Mr. George Ubachs, Mrs. Katerina Kyprianou, and Mrs. Vana Karagianni. Mr. Ubachs informed us earlier today that most probably he will not eventually be able to join, but he could address potential questions through email, and Mrs. Vana Karagianni is currently joining. She faced some connection issues. So I would like to start with Mrs. Katerina Kyprianou. Katerina, would you like to share some information about your role? Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you very much, Spiros, for the invitation. That was a very interesting the presentation before and the findings. Hopefully these challenges will be able to be solved, as you said, partially or maybe entirely from this new, I would say, trend of micro-credentials. So first of all, my name is Katerina Kyprianou. I'm head of the Department for the Development of Digital Competencies at GRNet. GRNet is an organization that is operating under the auspices of the Ministry of Digital Governance and contributes to the country's digital transformation. Recognizing the importance that human capital plays in a successful digital transformation, the Ministry of Digital Governance established in 2020 a GRNet and distinct department responsible for the implementation of the Ministry's strategy for the advancement of digital skills of all citizens. One of the most important initiatives of the ministry in the direction of enhancing digital skills was the launch in 2019 of a platform that is called the National Digital Academy, which is actually for the moment works as an aggregator that gathers available courses from various public and private educational and training providers, available courses for the advancement and the development of digital skills. These courses address all levels of digital skills, not only advanced digital skills, but it's also very important, and I will stand to the point that the previous speaker said, is that technology makes changes and requires people that have skills, not only advanced digital skills, but the ones that are going to use them. So we should not ignore that these technological changes, they require change in the skills of all citizens. So soon the Academy will start to develop its own MOOC courses that will be based in all this philosophy of micro-credentials and learning paths education, because we do believe that this is the way forward in closing the gaps, the digital skills gaps that they do exist now. Thank you very much, Spiros. I hope this was enough as an introduction.
Thank you, Katerina. This information was quite valuable, especially on this effort that we have collaborated also in the past on the National Digital Academy, and I'm glad to hear that you wish to proceed even shortly with the micro-credentials and MOOCs. I would like also to welcome Vana Karajani, the second keynote speaker.
Hello to
Vana.
everybody.
Would you like to share some information with the audience about you and your role and how this is related to the topic of the workshop? Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for the time. I would like, in order to introduce myself, I would like to share with you the experience and the connection that I have with micro-credentials. My experience, it is related mostly to the HR, the human resources field. I have 20 plus, I don't want to say anything about my age, 20 plus years of experience in human resources. And lately, the last 4 years almost, I deal also with European projects. That's why we created ENSO Hub, which is based both in Greece and in Ireland too. And we have a network of companies and organizations and universities that we create innovative learning and development projects from the perspective of not only the innovation, but also how they will be connected with the market. So my both experience with HR and also the European project gave me the opportunity to deal with micro-credentials. It's something new for many, many organizations, I would like to say, and very new and very strange, to tell you the truth, in the market. So the real market, the market of HR, they don't really know many things about micro-credentials, but they are very interesting to know more about it. So my connection is that we deal with projects, with European projects that we try to, we implement micro-credentials, we try to have certifications on that. And of course, we have a connection with organizations, like for example, universities, the Ege University, for example, from Turkey, that we created the European projects into courses, and these courses, they do have micro-credentials within. So this is my connection with micro-credentials, and I could say, as an HR professional also, that as I deal also with recruitment projects, and I have clients of mine, of the Greek mostly market, I would like, and this is an opportunity to share the perspective of the HR departments and how they can see as an added value a micro-credential certification to a person, to a candidate for a job position.
Thank you, Vana, for the information you just shared with us. And in this context, I would like to start with the first question that is related to what you just mentioned. And the question is, in which way do you think micro-credentials and skills-based hiring may help people to have a better access to the jobs of the future?
This is something that it really relates to the Greek market, not the Greek market, to the market in European and in global, I could say, level. It is very, very important because we have many candidates that they do have credentials from universities, from masters, from PhDs, but the real thing in many fields, like the sales field, for example, doesn't connect. A very good and experienced person doesn't really connect his own experience from his knowledge that he had 20, 15 years ago in his university or in his university. So the diploma, as we have it in our mind and as it is established until today, it's not enough. The people and the corporations, they do deal with skills. So the real thing is in the skills that a person owns, like, for example, analytical skills, for example, team working and things like that, and many other skills that I recently saw a McKinsey survey that said that the skills that we know until now, everything, and at least the half of them, the 50% of them, will change until 2027. So this is something that it's a skill thing that we needed to deal. So for a company, it's very, very important to have something, a system, in order to clarify if a person owns a skill. The only difficulty is that the HR of the departments, they don't really know many things about that. Maybe because it's not something that it's really developed in a very high level until now. It's developing, I mean, that we need some time in order to make it more wide in the real market. So my answer is that it's very, very important, and it will be in the future a real tool in order to select a person for a job position.
Thank you, Vanna. So just to highlight here the gap, the calendar gap between the existing credentials and the time that the professionals have to prove and prove actually not the knowledge they have gained some years, even 20 years ago, but the skills they have developed continuously through various learning opportunities on the job, etc., and they are called and they are hired now for this purpose.
Exactly, Spiros, exactly.
Thank you for that. Then I would like to ask Katerina about the following issue. Katerina, what do you think are the stakeholders, and how may they ensure that the skills acquired through micro-credentials and MOOCs are recognized and valued by employers in the job market?
Okay, if we see all the stakeholders of this ecosystem, there are actually four, okay? The micro-credential ecosystem. First, we have the learner, then we have the employers, we have then the education and training providers, and last but not least, we have the policymakers. Now, concerning your exact questions, how can they be valued and recognized by the labor market stakeholders. In order for micro-credentials to be valued and recognized, according to me, they need to fulfill two main important conditions, let's say. The first one is that they are relevant to market needs and respond to identified skills gap. And the second one is that they need to provide evidence that ensure and showcase the quality of the learning outcome for a required skill. So if these two are met, I don't see why the market will not accept, let's say, a micro-credential as proof of what a person knows. With respect to that specific context, out of the 4 stakeholders, 2 of them play a major role in fulfilling these conditions. Is the training and educational provider on the one hand, and on the other hand is the policymakers. Education and training providers, what they need to do is that they need to offer micro-credentials that really are relevant and address identified skills gaps, skills needs and skills gaps. And in order to do that, they need to approach micro-credentials in the correct way in designing the micro-credential. That is, they need to create micro-credentials that are based on specific job profiles and specific skill sets for a job profile, and take into consideration appropriate competency and qualification frameworks. So we have a shift from a subject-based education model to a competency-based education model. This is, we may believe that this is not, it's easy and it's something that everybody should do, but no, it's not easy. It's relevant and new. And still education and training stakeholders, they do not all understand what that means. What it means to start creating a course from a different start point, which is what are the competencies that this person needs to achieve. For the second condition, which is the value and recognize what really is the value of this micro-credential, we have the policymakers. And the policymakers are the ones who play an important role because they must address the question of trust in the value of micro-credentials. And this will be done by doing the development and establishment of enabling frameworks, regulations, or legislations in order to integrate micro-credentials into existing learning and employment systems. For example, one thing that we may start is, even for micro-credentials, there are various terms. You can say micro-credential, you can say digital credentials, you can say nano-credential. There is not one agreed term of what micro-credential is. So good starting points would be an initiative to establish a commonly agreed definition of micro-credentials, standard elements for describing a micro-credential, and the establishment of principles for designing, issuing, and recognizing micro-credentials. So everybody that is involved in this micro-credential and in this training and educational ecosystem will have a common understanding and a common ground on when they're talking about micro-credentials. The way that it's done about language skills, for example, if you say that I speak and I have the proficiency, let's say in English, everybody knows what I know and what I can accomplish. So these two factors, these two conditions are very important, and this is what we're trying to tackle also at the National Digital Academy, is to develop courses and to develop a common framework and a methodology to be applied by all providers in Greece, of course, on how to design courses and learning paths that are based on digital skills profiles and that are applied, across the board. So yeah, this is how I see the micro-credentials learning value and recognition about the employers and the market stakeholders.
Thank you, Katerina. Just to underline that these key stakeholders, to sum up, these 4 key stakeholders, so the learners, the employers, the policymakers, and the education providers, seem to have to be engaged more in collaboration, so as to create, first of all, to create between them a common understanding and support each other in the common objective of reskilling and upskilling professionals, so as to support the continuously market demands and overall well-being, overall professional well-being. Thank you. Vanna, I would like to ask you the following. Let's go now to the context of the education providers, one of the four key stakeholders that Katerina mentioned. And I would like to ask you, how do you think higher education and VET providers may effectively integrate microcredentials and MOOCs into their existing curricula and programs? So what could be the challenges and the barriers they face, as well as how they could overcome them?
Katerina said very clear all the framework about the micro-credentials, and I could say that this is the challenge. In order to speak the same language, let's say, a common language, and to have a common understanding of what is going on and what, for example, a skill is defined, how it is defined, and how we can certificate it. This is the difficult thing. For example, I could say my experience when I had to deal with a micro-credential platform, the ESCO platform, in order to integrate some skills in a course in a European project. I found it very difficult in some skills to have the same definition, although the name of the skill, it was the same. The definition of the skill, it was totally different from the one that I had in my mind and from my experience as an HR person and learning and development professional. So the real challenge, as Katerina said before, is to speak the same language. This is I think the most important thing. If we overcome this obstacle, because I see that ESCO, for example, in some months from now, will refresh and they will proceed to some changes in the skills, then everything will be more easy for us. And the training providers, for example, lately, about not very far away, something like two weeks ago, we had a very thorough discussion about the micro-credential with a well-established and known college here in Greece. And they confront the thing that they don't really know how they can transform everything into micro-credentials and into skills. So the second challenge is there is a gap of the people that they will help all the institutions and the providers to make this transformation. So first thing, the common language, in order to understand the alphabet, let's say, of the micro-credentials. Then the people, the expert people that they will facilitate, let's say, and they will guide the providers, the training providers and their organization in order to do this transformation. And then I think this is the last step. Then we can proceed to the market, to the job market, to the labor market, let's say. First, we have to do these two very, very important steps.
Thank you, Vanna. Do you have, could you estimate how much time would be needed for that?
I'm not a magician. I'm just a consultant.
Yeah, it seems to be quite demanding. And to be honest, I think that the problem is quite structural. As you clearly said that it starts even from the phase of agreeing on a common terminology on skills. So as to when we speak about, we use the term programming, for example, all of us to understand the same thing. And all of us, we are not only the 30 people, or around 30 people we are now in this workshop, we are billions of people all around the world.
Spiros, I select to be an optimistic person, not a pessimistic person. I couldn't tell a period of time, but the thing is that we have a beginning. We have a good beginning, I think, a structured beginning. The people that they deal with in policy expertise, Katerina very well explained and has enormous experience about that, and how they will structure all the micro-credentials world. They had a start. They will deal with challenges. I could say as a consultant and as a person from the market that it would be a very nice idea to put more people from the market as in a focus group level in order to give their experience, because they will deal with the skills in the market. So I think that they do have enormous experience and that they could help in order to structure this world, in order to gain some time, because many things, they are starting very nice. We have a structure, but we don't have the opinion of the market. So the very nice thing for a headhunter, for example, when an HR person recruits a person for a job position, it could be to have something specific, a certification that says that this person, for example, it's very good in problem solving, let's say. But in order to go in this way and to have this tool in our hands, I think that we could save some time in order to these worlds, the world of the policy and the world of the labor, to be more close. Not at the end when everything is completed, but in the meantime, during the building of this new system, of the new skill system, let's say. Sorry, Spiros, I don't give you a period of time. Sorry for that.
I would like to highlight how demanding this task would be, but I think that we should start our engines toward this objective. We see that in the other side of the Atlantic, the United States, about 15 years now, if I remember correctly, have established and continuously maintained their ONET, which includes even short descriptions of skills, but they are in the process. Possibly this could be a good lesson, not to replicate exactly this thing, but to see how they have worked on this direction, and how Europe would undertake similar efforts.
If I may, Spiros, sorry for the intervention. I'm sorry. United States, a very good example in everything in learning and development. They do give us in the past very, very good examples and best practices on learning and development in general. So I believe that, of course, we cannot adapt exactly the same system, but we can follow some structure, some framework, having also the European touch, because we are different. So I totally believe that this is a very good path in order to follow.
Thank you, Vanna. Katerina, I see that you have raised your hand.
If I may add to the challenges, which is extremely important, and it comes after what needs to be done before, is to change the mentality. Still, here in Europe at least, because micro-credential and this type of learning is relatively new and innovative. It's considered to be innovative, but mentality wise, we do believe that university degrees are more important than any other type of credentials we might achieve. And this is true not only for employers, but also in the mind of the learner. Okay, so learner thinks that he is more valued if he takes a university degree than going and doing a certification or any other kind of education. So of course, in order to do that, we need to do all the previous steps that you, Vanna, mentioned correctly, is that we need to change the whole system. We need to create credible micro-credentials and trainings that they're really based on actual market needs. We need to consult with the employers in order to create these kind of things. But then we also have to change the mentality. So to me, this is very, very challenging.
Katerina, Vanna, do you would like to say to have a last word on that?
Yeah, if it's possible, I would like to add something to Katerina's. I totally agree with Katerina. The mindset it's totally different now, and we have to do the transformation in something different. Though I could say that from the market perspective, the global companies, the international companies, they are more close to this mentality, and they do give a big deal to skills. That's why they do base promotions and many things in skills, and that's why they do hire people in competence and skills based interviews and everything. The work that we need to do, it's from the Greek culture, the Greek labor culture, let's say. So I totally agree with Katerina, mostly in Greek companies, not only the small and medium, but the big ones also. We do have a different mentality, and we are more conservative, dealing only with diplomas and specific academic degrees that we need to follow and to obtain. But I believe, as an optimistic person, I believe that at the time that we will be ready to share the micro-credential system in a more organized way in the market, I believe that the headhunters and the people that they deal with recruiting, as they do have training from abroad, from international environment, they will accept more easy the skill-based way of certification.
Thank you, Vanna, for the latest input. I see that this question arose a good discussion. So I would like to proceed to the next question. This has to do with, let me find it in my notes. I'll go back again to the initial set questions about related to the flexible learning paths. So that will help us to address the identified gaps in the domain of advanced digital skills. And I would like to ask you to provide your opinion on the recognition and the impact on the careers of trainers
Is it a question towards to me?
Yeah, yeah.
Spiros?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure that I heard very well your question. Can you please repeat it in order to, because I had a gap with my network, that's why.
Okay. So we speak about the flexible learning paths that will be used to address the identified gaps in the domain of advanced digital skills. We discussed about the stakeholders and how they can assure that the skills acquired through microcredentials and MOOCs are recognized and valued by the market. Now, I would like to focus more and to ask you about the recognition and how this may impact the career of trainers.
Okay, it's thank you for repetition. This is something very, very important for a trainer. I used to be a trainer for KPMG Greece for 10 years. I was a member of People Services team, and I had the opportunity to create and to design and to deliver many training projects, learning and development, I could say, because we had more than training, other things too. And I could say that it's not something that in every perspective and in every experience that I had, I could show that I have this skill. For example, sorry for using my own experience, but I was a trainer for all these years. So I had many skills that I developed through the years, but some of them I had the opportunity to have specific certifications from abroad in order to prove them. Some of them I cannot prove them in a very systematic and approachable way. So the micro-credentials, as I saw how they're trying to structure and how we can certificate a course with a skill orientation, it will help them to prove, not only to say the projects that they deal or the expertise that they have, but to prove by certification and specific skill that they obtain. For example, it's totally different to be a trainer in general soft skills, that it's very, very common. When you discuss with the trainer, he says or she says that I have an expertise in soft skills, but the soft skills are too many and so different. So a trainer cannot prove and cannot also distinguish the expertise that has without a systematic approach. So for the market, for the trainer itself, and for everybody, it will have a great impact in order to prove and, of course, to construct their own career. In that way, with a system, a specific system of like the one that we discussed of micro-credential, it will be very easy for everybody in the future to specify the experience of each person and, of course, the lack of experience that a new trainer needs to deal and to adapt or to participate in some courses in order to obtain.
Anna, so we understand that the exploitation or the support of the idea of micro-credentials will become also of a serious interest of the trainer side, as their proliferation could support even the recognition of the trainer and even their employment opportunities And so this confirmation, this validation of their knowledge to teach such skills would be of their both of their profit and of their trainees' interest. You have raised your hand.
And the trainers, we could say that this is a target group that can understand better from other target groups the micro-credential system, because they deal with skills. So they are the people that they can understand the benefits of that, their own. So I could say that the trainers could be the ambassadors of micro-credentials. That's why the people that they deal with the structure of the micro-credential could benefit from having them on board in order to build this system.
Thank you, Vanna. I have a question also from Brendan Rovan, who presented the LEADS project, and I would like to ask the opinion of both of you. So the question is, how is the dynamic changing roles both within the information technology and across all profiles being managed to be able to identify the competencies for the micro-credentials in the first place? Maybe I could say it again to help you understand better.
Yes, please.
So how is the dynamic changing roles both within the IT and across all profiles being managed to be able to identify the competencies for the micro-credentials in the first place? So we speak about here the changing roles of IT professionals of the whole range, and how the changing roles due to the changes of the market and the technology would be related with the competencies, and in turn and the competencies they need, and in turn how these could be validated and recognized through micro-credentials.
If I may have kind of an answer to that, if I understand the concept correctly. One of the basic elements of micro-credentials is that they're based on a different kind of educational model. So from subject-based educational model to competency-based educational model. So the starting point in building micro-credential is really to define what are these competencies are that we need to tackle, that this micro-credential should exploit and deliver. So building a correct and a concrete skills profile, depending on the job profile, is the number one thing that needs to start with. So this is the number one that needs to be done. So taking into consideration building the skills for a specific job profile that has to do with IT, we really need expertise here, the experts from the human resources or the experts from the IT, and taking into consideration what they're doing, what it needs to be done, what is the future trend in order to build the correct profile. Is this what it's an answer? I'm not so sure that I really grasp the question, but we really need to go back and validate these profiles, skills profiles, depending what are the trends coming in and what is the future of work and what are the dependencies as we go in, because technological and especially technological change and technology revolution and all these things that we're now living in, it creates rapid changes in all our lives, especially in work. So going back to the initial profiles and validate them, continuously validate them, depending on the new needs for skills that arise, to me, it's the number one thing about micro-credential, not only for advanced skills in IT, but for any kind of skills profiles. So I don't know if I answered the question. This is how I perceive.
If I may to add on what Katerina said, I assume, Katerina, that this was the question because I understand it like you. So the idea is, I could say three things. The first thing is, as Katerina said, to go back and to see the job profiles. From a HR perspective, it's totally different, the job description, and it's totally different, the job profile. So the job profile includes many things, includes the tasks, includes the collaboration that a person has, a job profile has within the company and with other departments, and the skills that needs in order to succeed, to have a success. So first of all, the one that Katerina said, to go back and have these job profiles. The challenge here is that the communication and the collaboration between the IT and the HR, in order to have a very good and very completed job profile, it's not always a success, because we have two different perspectives and two different worlds. So from the perspective of digital skills, the IT people know they have all the information and they know many things about the technical skills that they need. But the HR people, they don't usually have all this knowledge. So the first gap is there. And the second gap is that within IT digital skills, we do have, apart from the hard, we do have some soft skills. There is another second gap. The HR people that they do construct these job profiles, they do have a very good knowledge and experience about this. But usually the people that they do have a digital orientation, an IT orientation, they do lack of this knowledge. Misunderstanding, I could say, not knowledge, because it's not something difficult. So first, we need to go back. Second, we need definitely to collaborate with people that they own, that they do have this type of positions, and within the position they do develop the skills. So from first hand, to have people from the IT world, the digital world, in order to have more information about that, and then to go back and create the job profiles that we need in order to have the specific skills that could be on under micro-credential system. Hopefully that we answered.
Katerina, you would like to add something here?
Yes, I think another thing that it is extremely important for any kind of approaching in a competency-based education and job profile education is, and especially now for IT, it's okay, go back, redefine all the time the profile and the skills that need to be developed in for a specific profile. But also it is the continuous evaluation of the skills and where a person stands each time, depending on for this specific skill. So in order to have a kind of leading and providing and educating our staff, the staff and the human capital on specific skills, we need also to go back and evaluate them, where we stand now, what is the learning path that you need now to take in order to, because micro-credentials show you where you need to go based on the profile. A job profile and a competence profile show you where this person needs to go, but the way they will go there is what is the learning path. So the continuous evaluation of these people, of this person, where they stand and how to go and proceed its education, their education, it's a completely different thing. So evaluation also, it's extremely important. Hopefully we answered the question.
Thank you both. Thank you, Katerina and Vana. I see that George Zumbach finally made it. So even that now it was the time for the questions of the audience. I would like, first of all, to welcome you, George, to this roundtable. And I don't know, would you like to have a minute to say a few things about you?
Yes, thanks. Sorry, there were some problems in connecting, and I'm happy to join. So I'm Managing Director of ED2, European Association of Distance Teaching Universities, and the coordinator of the European MOOC Consortium. We consider microcredentials as very important to fill in the gap of upskilling and reskilling of people by short learning courses, online courses. And we have been exploring this for the past 4 years. There was a lot of discussions going on the position of microcredentials within the educational system. We have a running project now on supporting 10 European countries in being in consultation with their government on how to position microcredentials in their educational system. And in that context, we are developing a vision on microcredentials. Next to microcredentials being a term for an educational offer. First, it was linked with ECTS, but now it's not so much linked with ECTS, but as an educational offer. And on the other hand, a microcredential as a qualification. And as a qualification, we have determined in our vision that it is a meaningful amount of ECTS or workload for the student of 4 to 6 ECTS, about the average of 5 ECTS, 100 to 150 study hours as a microcredential qualification. We call that the Common Microcredential Framework. And we consider the possibility of stacking them, microcredentials, making it stackable, to 20 to 40 ECTS being a micro degree. And in that sense, building a qualification structure into the continuing education system, rather than having a whole bucket full of certificates and badges, but really developing a qualification structure by microcredentials into the continuing education sector. And that is what we are currently with the 10 countries and universities are exploring and supporting the countries in developing their vision in response to the Council recommendation on microcredentials.
Thank you, George. Partially, you managed to answer the half of the first question I had for you. So I would like to place you also the other half. The first thing is that, as we discussed previously with keynote speakers, there is a lack of consensus between what a microcredential is. And I would like to hear your opinion from the higher education side. This is the first sub question, and the second is, what do you consider is the future trends and innovations in microcredentials and MOOCs overall, at least from the point of view of higher education institutions?
Yeah. In response to the first question, what is a microcredential? It is clearly that a microcredential is different from a certificate or a badge in the sense that it is more transparent of what the student has achieved. The learning objectives need to be clearly defined, as well as the assessment method and the EQF level and so on. So there's a lot more information coming with the microcredential, making it possible to have also a wider recognition of microcredentials and transferability of microcredentials. So therefore also, as more information is needed to be provided with a microcredential, we do not believe that educational offerings less than 1 ECTS, 2 ECTS will get the full documentation that is needed with a microcredential, because it's quite a burden for the educational institution to provide all that information for every microcredential. So the transparency and the additional information That's very important to make it a micro-credential. And secondly, a micro-credential has also a fit-for-purpose element in which there is a direct connection with the demand from the labor market or the relevance for the student in their educational career. So what makes a micro-credential valuable is recognition, quality, relevance. These are elements that need to be part of it. And relevance, like I said, not only for the labor market, but also for the student's career development. When universities or VET providers develop micro-credentials, they can build them together with the labor market, or they can take bigger programs that they're already offering and cutting down in smaller units in micro-credentials. But then they really have to look into that every element, every micro-credential is fit for purpose. So it's not just cutting down bigger programs in smaller pieces. Each piece needs to have also the capacity of giving additional skills and competencies that are relevant. The future of micro-credentials, what I often see when you look at universities or higher education institutions is that they put micro-credentials high on their agenda. What is then their ambition? When I talk to them, some say we developed 2 micro-credentials this year and our ambition is to build 5 micro-credentials next year. But I don't think that should be the ambition for the future. Micro-credentials are part of a system of continuing education. So the ambition should be, we as a university or higher education institution have the ambition of extending our continuing education policy, including the support structure for their staff and also for the students. And micro-credentials are part of that. So it is part of the ambition of professionalizing also the staff in your institution to provide quality online continuing education, and then develop micro-credentials within this policy. So micro-credentials as such are part of a bigger policy and should be part of a bigger educational system. And there's also the task within the national ministries to find a way to integrate micro-credentials into the existing national educational system, and hopefully in coordinated action with other countries to support the mutual recognition cross-border.
Thank you, George. It was very interesting to hear listen to the opinion of the higher education institutions. What I keep from what you described, some highlights, is that 3 keywords related to micro-credentials: the relevance, the recognition, and the transparency. This is the first. And the second, in the future trends, I understand that maybe it is very early to judge this, but micro-credentials could be the vehicle to support universities, higher education institutions in general, to proliferate in the area of continuous education. So not to provide mainly the initial education degrees, so bachelor's, even some masters, but to drop into the arena of vocational education.
Indeed.
More and more.
Yeah, that's correct.
And to be honest, it was very interesting that I heard you speaking about ECTS points and not ECVET points. At least 15 years ago or so, or even more, the Commission supported both the idea of ECTS points and ECVET points for vocational education. It seems that the ECTS points progressed a lot. One reason could be the Erasmus programs of moving students between universities of different countries. And so universities needed and students needed a concrete way to prove the knowledge they had gained in another university and this been recognized in the mother university. But ECVET points, at least based on my personal and professional knowledge, have not proliferated so much. And it is interesting hearing you saying about relating micro-credentials with ECTS points, even if the vision, the ambition of the universities would be to proliferate in the continuous education.
Indeed, but in the definition that eventually was adopted from the adoption of the recommendation from the Commission, they let go of the connection with the ECTS points. They said ECTS points when possible, otherwise indication of study hours. Yeah, so it's not that a micro-credential necessarily needs to indicate ECTS points.
Thank you for the clarification. Now we are almost 10 minutes before closing our seminar, so I shall not ask more more questions to the invited speakers. I would like to ask the audience if you have some questions towards the invited speakers.
Hopefully we didn't frighten them. We are not biting.
Now, as
Cannot
we
hear you.
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe some people are writing now in the Q&A's box. So,
Spiros, I just wanted to add that in the listing, the value of a micro-credential, you said relevance, recognition, but it was also a quality. Should not forget the point of quality there. Yeah.
it seems that we don't have any questions from the audience. So I would like to ask George a last question before summing up.
Sorry, Spiros, we have a question.
Q&A.
We have a question from Brendan.
I think that this is the question we did before.
Sorry, Spiros, it was just more to ask the opinion here that are there any areas of resistance to this move? Because the three of you kind of represent the people who are really behind the idea of micro-credentials, and just where you find, not necessarily resistance, but where you finding potential challenges within actors to this move towards more fluid credential areas.
I see that Yavanna raised first her hand. So would you like to respond?
I believe that Browan had the initial question about that we discussed before. From my perspective, as a person from the market, as an HR person from the market, I could say that the connection and the interaction between people from digital world to the HR world in order to combine their knowledge and their experience and define specific skills about specific digital skills and have them, of course, included in the job profiles, as I said before. This is a real challenge before micro-credentials. This is something that we lately confront as HR, and we do have to deal with this gap.
Thank you, Vanna. Katarina, would you like to add something?
Yes, I really do not believe that there is resistance, because the advantages of micro-credential in this rapid changing world that we're facing, and then continuous new demands for skills and updated skills. So microcredentials is definitely the answer. I don't see any resistance. The only thing is that it's a new thing, microcredentials, that everybody needs to understand. We need to understand, we need to set a common ground, we need to set up the framework and the policies and I don't know what. And as soon as we do that, so we can all cooperate and we all can understand the same thing about credentials and the way we treat credentials and the way we recognize credentials and the way we design MOOCs and courses that they deliver micro-credentials. Once we all have a common understanding and a common ground on working on micro-credentials, I think micro-credentials will be adopted and accepted and valued. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Katerina. George, would you like to add something?
Yes, so we have to distinguish micro-credentials as an educational offer and as a qualification. As an educational offer, higher education institutions can make micro-credentials by providing the mandatory information, like the learning objectives description, and so there's a whole list, mandatory list by the Commission. Then it is an educational offer called a micro-credential, and then you have a micro-credential qualification, which is an agreement on, let's say, is it 3 ECTS, is it 10 ECTS, and there's a lot of discussion of how many ECTS is a micro-credential, but there will never be one micro-credential. There will be coexistence of different micro-credentials. Some are sector related, some are university level 5 ECTS, others are 10 ECTS, but we hope to have a kind of a agreement on the level of that, but that's still under discussion. What is more of a resistance further is that a micro-credential means that you have a strong online provision of education, and this online provision, the quality of online provision by an institution could still be improved, as was shown by the COVID crisis. A lot needs to be done by educating the educators in providing quality online education and building the support structure in the institutions to deliver quality online micro-credentials.
Thank you, George. I do not see additional questions from the audience, so I would like to highlight some key issues discussed during this workshop as we are approaching to the end. So I hope that all of us have started understanding better what micro-credentials are and how they could be and most probably will be exploited both by the training providers. Here we listen to the opinion of the higher education institutions and of course from the market and the policy context. We have all three representatives of all the three stakeholders here today with us. So it seems that micro-credentials have arrived and will continue to proliferate. Of course, there are a lot of actions that should be undertaken in parallel that will support the proliferations, and these activities have to do with clear definition of job role profiles and job descriptions on the market side, as well as agreements and common terminologies that should be developed on the definition of different skills and competencies. So it is critical here to bring all key stakeholders, education providers, learners, employers and policymakers into a creative dialogue so as to enhance this common understanding and cooperate between each other in the common direction. Apart from that, We heard that trainers also could benefit a lot of the proliferation of the micro-credentials, both validating better their professional role and their expertise, and even they could operate as ambassadors of micro-credentials. And last, I would like to underline that especially in the area of advanced digital skills, as this workshop today is under this umbrella, there is, especially if we understand correctly, in the larger companies, there is sometimes a lack of common understanding between the respective IT or IS information systems departments and the HR departments that have under their responsibility the hiring. So this lack of common understanding sometimes do not support the recruitment of the appropriate person for the respective position. So micro-credentials could help both of these kind of internal players to understand better the skills and the profiles of candidates that they would like to hire and enhance quality and transparency. This is all from my side. I would like to thank you all for participating to this creative discussion. The LEADS project will continue its journey with additional workshops in the area of advanced digital skills. We have bigger workshops like this one today, and we have smaller workshops every 2 or 3 weeks on specific topics on how we or how we created these outcomes, these particular outcomes described by Brendan in the beginning. So please stay tuned to our website and the social media to get informed about the new learning opportunities. Would you like to add something?
Thank you very much for the invitation and, of course, the opportunity to share our experience and our thoughts to the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, thank you too. I think that now the workshop I approached to the end. So now it is the time to count towards the end. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everybody.
Christmas.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.